Hey, and welcome to Property Mastermind podcast with Hilary Saxon, episode 61. This week, which property developments make the most money? A great interview with Bob Andersen, who, as a developer over the last 38 years, has had plenty of experience in many different types of developments through many different eras in the economy and ups and downs. Bob and I discuss where he thinks the best money is to be made, and maybe you'll learn where you could go or maybe find an avenue you hadn't considered. But anyway, let's jump into episode 61, learning about which property developments make the most money. Hey, and welcome to episode 61. And today talking which property developments make the most money. But before we do, giving away a copy of the book, Property Millionaires Exposed, where all of these people talk about their favourite property strategy and which one they use. This is a great book. Bob just says straight on over to episode 121. If you would like a signed copy of this book, please comment favourably, send me an email, let us know, screenshot something, share it somewhere, and you'll go in the draw. But hey, this week, our winner is Alex Sparks. I spoke with Alex this week. Cheeky, he found a way to sneak into our closed membership, which is closed right now, but opening soon, relaunching soon, and it's going to be bigger, better, faster and stronger. But anyway, Alex snuck in there. We've had a conversation. Alex, this book is on its way in the post to you. And Bob, before we get started, I'll start with a thanks, and then we'll come to our upcoming events because we've got some really cool stuff coming up.
Yep.
So first of all, thank you so much again for
dropping in
from
just passing by
from up the hallway.
Yep.
Thank you to the podcast room, and you're looking good today.
Well, you're looking rather splendid yourself.
Thank you. Thanks. Didn't think you noticed.
How could I not?
How could you not? So today we're going to be talking which property developments make the most money, because Bob has huge experience over a huge number of years. But before we do, I will just take you through some fabulous events we've got coming up. Now, if you open our emails, if you're not on our database, we only send an email out on a Thursday generally. If you get an extra one, it's probably personal from me for some reason. But just keep in mind these dates. We have our free masterclass on the 1st of October, and that's where Bob leads people through the property development process and tells you about programs that we have. It is fabulous, and it is a great way to understand what property development is about and if it's for you. So it is free. Of course, he's going to talk about a product at the end, but people come on it and absolutely love it. So that's October the 1st from 9 till 1, and that's online. We have October the 8th. We have our Brisbane property event, and that's from 2 till 5, and that will be held at the Colmslie. On the 8th. We've got our event on the 15th of October in Sydney and on the 22nd of October in Melbourne. If you want to learn more about those, feel free to you can email or just open up our emails and register for those. They are great events. We ran them earlier this year. They were so popular. We had such fun afterwards, more fun afterwards. But
bigger event after.
It was a bigger event after, but it was a great time and really good learning. So we've got some cool guest speakers that come along. It's a little bit next level. And lastly, we've got our 3-day workshop coming up in the Gold Coast on the 4th, 5th and 6th of November. We've been throwing a few dates around, but it looks like that's where we're heading. It's going to be a doozy, and you don't want to miss this one. So just different to our usuals. We're up-speccing things a little bit. It'll be really worth coming along to that. So look out for more information on that. Anyway, let's get started on Bob. Let's talk about you.
Get started on Bob.
Let's get started on you. Bob, talking about which property developments make the most money, and I know we're not talking about how big a development is and the cash you get back. It's your return on cost, your ROC. So can you define that?
Yeah. So as you just said, what property developments make the most money? Well, it'd be the biggest property developments, maybe a 100-storey high-rise or something like that. But yeah, return on cost, ROC, sometimes called margin on cost, MOC.
There you go.
It's just a benchmark that developers use to look at the profitability of a project. So it's pretty simple. It's just the profit expressed as a percentage of the total costs. You think of the total cost of a project, everything. You know, land, consultant, council, finance, marketing, like everything, every cost, your profit as a percentage of all those costs is what we often call return on cost, the ROC, the margin on cost. Sometimes call the developer's profit margin again.
Who mostly calls it that, Bob? Like when you say sometimes call, because I mostly hear ROC. So.
Yeah, and that's why I was brought up, return on cost,
Yep.
ROC. But some people use margin as a word, but all good, same thing. And
you can choose whatever you like.
Yeah, so with
to the listeners.
Yeah, with different types of projects, you can have slightly different ROCs. An old benchmark that people often throw out there is 20%. So that means that your profit is 20% of your costs. There are other parameters that we use as developers as well. There's another one called internal rate of return. Guess what? IRR.
Yeah, I was going there already. Yeah.
IRR. That takes into account your profit in relation to time. But the old benchmark on projects that don't take too long is return on cost, ROC.
And I suppose that's just you saying that, Bob, the IRR. At the moment with the rate of internal rate of return, with people struggling, finding builders, finding tradies, with how things are going out there, that might be impacting, and people might not have taken that into account. That could be a thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a fact at the moment that with the supply chain issues we've had, the trade issues, that building's taking longer. We're involved in a number of upmarket duplexes, and builders want 9, 10, 11 months to do a duplex. Whereas 5 years ago we were doing 5-story buildings in 9 months. So, but what does that do to a project? Well, obviously that extra stretch adds some interest onto it. It's not sheep stations, but it does have an effect, and so that doesn't affect the internal rate of return. Affects the ROC a little as well. That's why if you can manage to get an extended settlement on a site, that'd be great. If you could sign a contract and maybe settle after you've got your approvals, that'd shorten it up a lot, and that helps those things as well. But yeah, so ROC, that's what we look at.
We're looking at the ROC. So talk us through your favourite or what you've done and
or what haven't I done?
Okay. Well, let's go.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've developed.
What actually haven't you done?
Oh, well, have to think about that.
Yeah, I'm serious.
So I mean, the standards are land subdivisions, townhouses, and apartments. I guess they're the standard in the residential world, and I've certainly done my share of those. I've also done commercial. I've done office blocks. I've done industrial, and there's all types of industrial as well, of course, and retail, which is shops. Done all those specialised things. I've done specialised student accommodation. Even holiday stuff, really. I mean, not much I haven't. I haven't done a service station.
Haven't you?
No. Maybe I should do one while I'm still standing vertically.
Is it on the bucket list?
No, it isn't really. But it's one of the few things I probably haven't done. And NDIS. I mean, you're doing that.
So I'm one up on you there.
Well,
how good's that?
Well, someone has to do it in the family. Might as well be you.
Okay. Yeah.
So done all sorts of things. Anything from a 2-lot splitter to, well, when I was with some of the big development companies, 60, 80, 70-story buildings. So, done lots.
So, in your who has the best ROC?
Well, it varies a lot.
Just for those that are listening and not watching, he went to an arm fold. That's interesting. Ooh, is that for thinking?
That's my pondering.
Oh, right. I haven't seen. Or are you cold? I haven't seen.
Well, I'm a little bit cold as well.
Is it?
The podcast room is a little cold.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're talking about a small project like a 2-lot subdivision or a splitter, the return on cost can be lower than it. Because what we take into account is how long a project takes,
time,
how much equity, how much money it takes, and the size of it. So the smaller the project, the quicker the project, the less capital intensive the project. You can get by with a small ROC. Like you might do a 2-lot subdivision and be in and out of it in 6 months. Well, depending on where you are, probably not in Victoria. But there's plenty of places you can be in and out of a 6-lot subdivision in within 6 months. But then if you're doing a 4 townhouse project, it could be 20 or 24 months. but it's a bigger project. It makes more dollars profit, but you'd want a higher ROC as well because of the fact that there's more capital involved. There's a higher level of risk involved. It takes longer, but like something small like a 2-lot subdivision, and you can look at a lot to find one that actually makes money, but.
Hey, just a quick advert here. If you are interested in investing with us, we have an opportunity available right now. It offers first mortgage security. It is a great investment and we offer a earn and learn. So Bob actually takes you through what he's doing, which is a great way for even if you're just interested, but if you'd like to learn. So as I said, first mortgage security, great for self-managed super fund. Minimum investment is $100,000. If you're interested, please reach out below or you can contact me, admin@propertymastermind.com.au. I talked about that with one of the mentoring students this morning. We were chatting about it. She said, I feel like it's like finding a needle in a haystack. And I said, it is, but there are needles in the haystack. But that's a choice you've got to make, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if it's something like a 2-lot subdivision, that can go down, 10% return on cost if you can get in and out of it quickly, which you usually can.
Yeah.
And but like you wouldn't do 4 townhouses on 10%. In fact, you wouldn't be able to. The bank wouldn't let you.
No one's going to loan you that money. So, or maybe someone would. But.
Yeah, but then you can take a step up. You can think about things like, say, duplex, and we're involved in quite a few of those. But duplexes, well, once again, they're a bit more capital intensive than a 2-lot subdivision because now we're building a building. It take a bit longer, as you just said. Building's taking a while. And so probably in the range of around 15% return on cost for something like a good, decent duplex. That'd be quite acceptable. Yeah, so, or perhaps even, take the 2-lot subdivision a step further and let's say build houses. So you might do a 2-lot subdivision, knock a house down perhaps, cut it into 2 lots, build 2 new houses. That could run around that sort of 15% mark, a bit like a duplex as well. Because remember, you can stage that development. So you buy, let's say you buy a property, you get an approval for 2-lot subdivision, knock the house down. You could build one house, you could then sell that house, reduce your debt, and then go ahead and build the second house. So you don't have to build the 2 houses at the same time. That makes it a bit safer, less capital intensive, less equity in the deal. That can work pretty well.
Which can make it a lot easier for people who want to do it on their own, who don't want to use other people's money, who just want to be able to get started on their own. That is a great way to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, and so we're probably looking at return on cost for something like that around 15%. So some people then put the two together because it's like a 2-lot subdivision and a house build. And I've seen people where the first part of it, the 2-lot subdivision, if you did that by itself only and then sold the land, you wouldn't make much. You might be showing 4 or 5%. So you wouldn't do that as a subdivision. But if you then add a house build to it, and you can switch the whole thing up to like 15%, then that's okay because you're looking at, two parts to it, the subdivision and the house build. But overall, if you come out, 15%, then probably worth doing.
Bob, I'm going to ask, such a terrible word, my language, crikey. What is the difference generally in your experience, it's slightly off piece, but I'm just interested, in the build time for single level to double level?
Well, everything's slow at the moment.
Yes.
So if people are watching this podcast in 2 years' time, we'll probably be back to normal speed again. But,
so we're...
This is 2022. What is it?
It's August 2022.
It's August 2022.
So don't hold it against them, like that lady that time.
Yeah. Well, I was just talking to somebody the other day, actually, who was in Victoria, in Melbourne, who's doing a duplex, but they're doing low-set duplexes. So they had the choice of doing 2 two-storey or 2 single-level. Obviously, the single level is cheaper, quicker, sells for less.
So you've got the IRR going on.
Well, yeah, but it all works pretty well because the 2-storey one is more expensive, takes longer to build and sells for higher. But the margin's about the same.
I'm going to say
or should I say the return on cost?
I'm guessing
it's a she.
What did she go with?
She's gone with low set.
She's gone with low set. She's one of our go-getting mentoring students.
And the difference in build time was 6 months for the low set and 9 months for the 2-storey, according to the builder.
Okay.
Anyway, there you go. That's a current example.
Can I ask what was her decision around that one?
Well, the margin's the same.
Yeah.
She can. It's a first project.
Yeah.
So it's a good experience. You want to do it well. It's cheaper to do. There's less money on the table. It's going to be easier to finance. She's going to come up with the equity easier.
Yeah.
You're in and out of it quicker. Some people might say, well, it goes both ways. Markets go up, markets go down, but some people say, well, getting in and out of a deal quicker is a good thing.
Yeah.
But then if the market's rising, you haven't really gained a lot by getting out quicker. But no, for her, I think it's just less equity in the deal, a quicker turnaround. The market's just as strong. In fact, there's probably a slightly larger market on a low set because generally people, like, let's say, over 55 or pick an age, tend to move away from...
That's me out of there.
No, you're out of it. I'm not. That tends to... they tend to not like houses with stairs.
Yeah.
And so, in effect, a low set house has a higher number of potential buyers.
Okay, interesting.
And it's well located anyway, not that far from the beach, so it'll go well.
Yeah, cool. And she's a legend.
Absolutely.
We like Tanya. There you go. We love her. She's done a great job. So, Bob, what about... what else? What other margins are we on?
Yeah, we're stepping up to townhouses, haven't we? We've
Yes.
sort of moved past... And let's say something like a 4-pack of townhouses. Probably looking 18 or 20% margin. Keep the banks happy. And so we're rising up there, I know.
And I think you just mentioned something there that a lot of people aren't aware of. Often these margins are required by the bank, aren't they? Because people often will say, well, you're still going to make $100,000. Why would you not do it? It is because the bank won't loan the money if that is the level of profit that you're making very often, isn't it?
Yeah, well, once it comes to commercial finance, so that's when it's like more than two things. So bigger than a duplex. We're talking about a 4 townhouse project. Normal retail banks don't finance 4 townhouse projects. You need to go to the commercial arm of the bank or a non-bank. And that's when the return on cost is important because they set a standard. It's done by the valuer during part of the valuation, but yeah, it has to hit that margin. So if they're saying 4 townhouse project in this particular postcode area, I want to see 18%, then that's what you want to see. You might have a project that's showing 13% and it's showing, $350,000 profit, and you think, well, I don't care. I just want the $350,000. I don't care if it's 13%. I'm happy with the $350,000, but the point is the bank's not happy. And unless you're using your own money, you're not going to the bank. It won't fly. Little projects, maybe ones and twos, duplexes, that sort of thing. If you can get retail finance from a retail bank, they don't look at the return on cost. They just lend you a percentage of everything. So a little bit different.
So we've got the 4 townhouses then sitting at 18 to 20%. What about larger subdivisions? That would be the next step up? Yeah,
it would be. We talked about the little splitters, but moving into bigger ones, however you want to define bigger, it could be like 10 or more, once you get up. Not that they're big, 10's not big, but getting there. Yeah, look, absolute minimum of 20 probably. So some financiers like a bit more of a margin in land subdivisions because, financiers, as they do, they're risk averse. They're always looking at the worst case scenario. And the worst case scenario is if they have to foreclose on a deal. Yeah. And the thing is that you can't rent land out.
No.
But you can rent a building out.
I remember you telling me this was one of your early rookie mistakes, wasn't it?
Well,
back in the day, early days developing.
Oh, myself, yeah. Well, I learned it very early in the piece. That's why at one point I did get very early, when the market changed and I got caught with a bit of a land subby. I got through there by the skin of my teeth, but the things I couldn't rent out the land.
Yeah.
If I built some townhouses and I couldn't sell them, I can always rent them out.
Yeah.
And when you consider that you're creating townhouses at cost and you're getting retail rent, the shortfall mightn't be much, particularly when interest rates are low. They weren't always low. Back in the day when I started out, they were quite high.
So how did you get through by the skin of your teeth? What did you do to get through?
Well, I ended up building houses on the land, one at a time.
Oh, okay.
So, that took a little while. But anyway, I got out of it. It wasn't a big subdivision, but that's what first taught me, well, you can't rent land out. And I went away from land subbies for quite a while, but went back to them later when I was quite a bit smarter than I was back then.
Back in the day?
It was very early days for me.
And what's next after the
land subbies? 20, sometimes larger ones, 25% return on cost, what you'd be looking at from, to make them sale financially. What else would you do? Well, I suppose, you've got things like apartments. Small apartments.
What's a small apartment in your head?
4-pack, 6-pack, that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah.
Walk-ups. you know, they're similar to townhouses. They're sort of around that 18-20% mark. When you move into larger apartment blocks, financiers see them as definitely a higher level of risk. I think part of the reason is you can't stage the development on an apartment block.
No.
Like, let's say you got a 50 apartment block.
You can't rent out the bottom 4 floors as you're building the top ones.
No. I mean, you could pre-sell the whole lot, but the bottom line is, until you've built the whole building, you can't settle on any of it. So there's no money back on an apartment block until you've built the whole thing. That's, say, 50 apartments.
Remember that huge building we saw go up in Brisbane? The green one, right in the centre there. How many floors was that?
Oh, it's about 22. It was very wide, which is, you know, it wasn't super high, but it was very wide.
I still don't. Have they tenanted that? I think
that was weird. That was done by a Chinese development company.
Yeah.
And
something went on there.
Something funny went on.
The first 9 levels were carless. Like, there were no car parks. Single bedroom, no car park apartments. So obviously targeting. It was quite central. So targeting the student market or just couples or single people.
I don't know what they targeted, but that thing sat around for a long time.
Is there anyone living there yet?
Don't live near there anymore. We used to live near it.
Yeah, we watched it go up. It was like, wow, how big's that thing? It's crazy.
Yeah, that was weird though. There's something strange there. But back to apartment blocks. Like, say you do 50 apartments, you've got to build the whole 50. So that's pretty capital intensive before you send your money back. If you're doing 50 townhouses, you could do 5 stages of 10. You could do 3 stages of 17. And that means it's a lot safer, really.
Yeah.
Because firstly, you don't need as much equity in the deal, so you don't need as much money. The loan's not as high. Yeah. And you can sell them in parcels. Like, if you did, say, 5 stages of 10, which you probably wouldn't do, you're more likely to do 3 stages of 17 or something. But you might only need from finance, you might only need like 5 or 6 pre-sales. Whereas if you're doing 50 apartments and they use the same percentage, you might need 30 pre-sales. But a lot less capital. So staging and development is a big
not making
help.
It pretty on the inside. We're talking about getting it done, selling it off.
And the same goes with subdivisions. Anything that's horizontal, like a land subdivision, townhouses, retirement, anything like that, where you can stage it, that's great. Apartments you can't. And so, when you get into those larger ones, they're looking for 25, even sometimes 30% margin.
Really?
Well, they're at a much higher level of risk.
And
unless you can get like a super high percentage of pre-sales. Financiers are just weighing risk all the time. They're valuing risk. That's what they do. So de-risking a high level of pre-sales, they might be prepared with a lower margin. Yeah.
Next on the list up.
Well, industrial, commercial, all that sort of stuff. I guess that's
what do they look
quite
for
different.
There for the
RSC?
RSC?
You generally get a higher one. Like, you see, commercial is very different from residential, of course. With commercial, what you're looking for is tenants. If you're building offices, you're looking for tenants. If you're building industrial, you're looking for tenants. You're building retail, shops, you're looking for tenants. And so in that whole commercial space, what we're doing is we're looking for tenants, because as soon as we can lock tenants in, we've got an income stream, and then the value of the property goes up a fair bit. Sometimes, though, if a commercial development's not done well, maybe bad location, maybe just not picking the market right, it can sit around for a long time, and it'll just eat into the profits. With residential, generally, if we had trouble selling something, it's generally not hard to rent. Because the average, vacancy factor is probably around 2.5-3%. At the moment, it's super low. Of course, it's below. Some places 0.6% vacancy. But equilibrium is probably somewhere around 2.5 to 3%, and that's for old properties as well as new. So if it was 2.5 to 3 overall, probably new property is about 1.5. So if you had a new property residentially to rent, you'll rent it.
Yeah.
But not always the case with commercial.
And the thing with commercial is that as well, they're less likely to just think, we'll just rent it cheaper, because that devalues the property.
Good point.
I used to think all of the time, and it wasn't until you told me that I didn't know. One of my big learnings in property development. Well, I was like, well, why don't they just rent it to anybody, get money in, like get it turning over? And he said, as soon as you lower that rent, you lower it, because it's all based on the rent coming in value as the value of the property.
Yeah. The valuation is what we call a multiplier, or a cap rate of the net annual return. So you work out the net annual return, which is the rent less all the overheads, that's the net return. For different types of property, different locations, there's a multiplier of that. It could be, say, 8 times the net annual return. Well, if you drop your rental down to put somebody in, 8 times the lower rental, you just devalued the value. So that's why you often see with commercial, they'll give people like a rent holiday. They'll free fit out, anything, but keep the dollars per square metre up there.
Yeah.
And that's how that works. But so look, if you can get a tenant in really quickly, I mean, the perfect world for doing commercial is to find a tenant and then build them a building so they go straight in. But when you can do that sort of thing, margins, 30% or more are not uncommon. But it can bleed heavily if you don't do it right, and that 30 can become like 15 or 10. If it's sitting there for a year and no tenant.
So we've worked our way up. We've started off with subbies being 10 to 12%. We've gone to houses 15 to 16, duplexes 15, townhouses like 4 townhouses 18 to 20, subdivisions a bit larger ones, not 1 to 2. We've gone 20 to 25, large apartments 25 plus. Then we've gone to what was after the large apartment? Commercial being 24 to 30, NDIS?
Well, it's very different, isn't it? Because you're involved in NDIS projects, so you understand it's a very high rental. I mean, they cost quite a bit to build because it has to be fitted out, and depending on the level of care that's going in.
There's different levels of care, and ours is a high level of care, so it's a high, expensive fit out.
It's a very expensive fit out and a build, but then obviously the returns are very high. So it's almost like commercial property, something like NDIS, where the value is more a multiplier of the net annual return, and net annual return is pretty good. So with the multiplier, they come right up. So I mean, in pure return on cost, they're good. But the thing is, if you develop those, you're probably more likely to want to hold them for the cash flow. The same with other types of things. With I mean, they're not as good, but even student accommodation. That's not just townhouses let to students, but developed and approved as student accommodation.
Do they have the
rent
same
by room
problem when it comes to that, with that turnover? I know NDIS is pretty much, they put somebody in and that person stays there like for a very long time. But student accommodation, you've got that turnover, you've got that element of student. Is that a bit more hassle rent-wise? What's the payoff there, Bob?
Yeah, it can be. But what often happens is a lot of overseas students, I was involved in one the other side of the road from a university. They were actually nine bedroom townhouses, and each room rented for, it was like 10 years ago, each room rented for $300 a week because you couldn't get any rentals on campus. And overseas students loaded, well, their parents are loaded, they're happy to pay $300 a week for a room. And so imagine 9 times 300 for every townhouse. But that was approved as student accommodation, and with much lower car parking requirements and that sort of thing. But where am I going with this? I can't remember your question anymore.
Oh, the question, we've just gone up the road. We've started at the bottom, and the next one, what is the next? I think we're heading to the...
we're getting away from... Well, that's specialised sort of residential, I suppose, students, NDIS. Yes. They're the sort of things that you want to hold because of the big cash flow. And I suppose, you can take it to the ultimate, I guess, which is, what do you think?
Oh, Bob's favourite.
You know what I'm going to say.
Retirement village. Over 50s lifestyle.
Yeah, the retirement sector.
Yes, the retirement sector. That's a good way of putting it.
Well, having developed virtually everything, except a service station.
Yes.
That's the best I've ever found.
What is the REC on one of those? How do you even work that out?
It's through the roof. People... You'd have to understand the whole modelling and the financial modelling for it to even make sense. But if you sort of did a feasibility like a normal townhouse one, it'd be north of 70%.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy moly!
Yeah, and people can't understand that because they try and compare it to what they know. They try and compare it to a townhouse development.
Oh my goodness.
And you can't, because the whole modelling, the whole financial modelling of how it operates is entirely different. I'm not talking about the financial modelling on the development side. No. The development finance, it's a bit different as well. But the whole financial modelling of how it operates, because when you develop one, you don't sell it, you keep it. And then it's what it's worth. So, yeah, look. Not to be confused with aged care.
Just look inside his head, and I almost can see the cogs going around. There's so much in there. Honestly, we need to get it out and We need to put it in some sort of library so we can all access it.
Well, we're sort of doing that at the moment with I'll tell you, well, you already know because you're involved a bit more about that, the earn and learn in a moment, but I first got involved in the retirement sector about 30 years ago. I worked for a company, we developed probably about 12 or 13 retirement villages, so I was a development manager there, did all that, and then left there, set up my own organisation, acted as a consultant on various ones as well. I've written papers for banks on how to financially structure debt in regards to retirement villages. I've actually trained valuers on how to value them 20 years ago. It's my specialty. But it's something I love and I've always been involved in on the side. Not too long goes past when I'm not involved in something to do with something in the retirement sector. Not to be confused with aged care, which is very different.
Which is like drama that's on TV.
Oh, you don't want to go anywhere near aged care. No, it's very different. It's quite complex. It's managed, but basically under the Aged Care Act of 1997. It's don't even ask me about that. I've been there once and don't want to go back. But then within the retirement area, there's a couple of different types. There's the Retirement Village Act in every state dictates that. It's often called over 55s. The financial structure is often a deferred management, which is very complex. But I like being a simple individual. I like simple things, and I like the land lease model, manufactured home estate. And you're part of it. You're an investor in it, and
I am.
You're also raising capital on it.
Yeah.
And that's the one we're doing in Tamworth on the Greg Norman Design Golf Course.
It's pretty epic. There was an ad earlier in this. If you're interested in investing, we take on investors for that, so reach out. It is pretty exciting to watch it unfold, I suppose, for me, because I've seen all of the other stuff and work with so many people now within property, and obviously we talk property all the time, but it's definitely something that's been interesting to follow and watch fold out, and just even having to hire a shop in the middle of a town, to rent a shop to build the small what do you call that?
Well, it's a display unit.
They build a little village that you look through the glass, and then actually having the kitchen and bathroom set up, a house set up there for people to look at. There's just it's just a very interesting thing. You don't get that on other developments, I don't suppose.
No, it's funny, and you know the story very well of how I came onto that particular project.
Oh yeah.
Through one of my former mentoring students, Pete.
Yeah.
Who had finished the program about a year or so, and he somehow latched onto this deal. And
was he looking for it, Bob? Do you think?
Oh, I don't know. It popped up. He thought he'd have a crack at it, and good on him. But the thing about the whole project is it's quite complex, and he didn't have the experience, the understanding of it, and capital intensive. He didn't have the money, but smart enough, he came back to me, and I had a look at it. I did some research, made a few adjustments to what he was planning, and moved ahead with it. And I'm the primary shareholder in that development, but Pete is a minor shareholder, but enough to do extremely well. In fact, if he wanted to, just out of that one project and being a minor shareholder, he could retire, but we don't. Pete's not up for retirement. He just wants to do more and more stuff.
Pete's like a never-ready battery.
Yeah, he is.
He does not stop.
No. But what that did is, obviously, that's the project we're doing at the moment. It's between the 17th and 18th tees of a Greg Norman Design Golf Course. It's what we call a land lease community. That's the type of model. So what we've done with our capital raising is, quite a lot of people from our community have invested in that. They're getting a good return. They're getting a return on their capital. So it's an investment where you get an interest rate return, a very healthy one. Great security, first mortgage. I'm standing like an ad now, and it probably is.
Yeah, that's right. There was one in there.
Yeah, but anyway, the earn and learn, that's something special for us.
Yeah.
Where people that invest in it are actually teaching them about the whole process, about this whole retirement industry and how the modelling works, how the finance works, how the financial feasibilities work, how to find sites, what to look for, how to do the due diligence, how to come up with a deal. Because what I'd love to happen, I'd like to create the next Pete, because through educating the investors in there, if they can come up with a good deal and bring it back, they can be the next Pete.
They can be.
And that's the sort of the earn and learn component, which I love to do. I love to teach property development. You can't learn any of this sort of stuff about that particular product. You don't learn it at uni. There's no property development degrees. It's very what would you call it? tightly held information by the few developers that actually do it, and not many developers do it. So,
do you know what I've learned from the process as well, doing the capital raising? Because I work with people within our business, like the mentoring or the people I work with in property coaching, is just teaching them how to set up their property business, teaching them how to how to approach investors, teaching them how to communicate with investors, how to be professional. I teach that all the time. I am a business coach. I have been coaching for a long time, but now it's all in the property realm. And I'm having to do it myself because I'm doing the capital raise. And it's so interesting, very interesting when you reach out to people and they say they're interested and really they just want the information, and oh my goodness, I think, oh my goodness. It's the tire kickers. If you're listening now and you've been a tire kicker, come on, send me I'm sorry Hillary text or email. But it has been an interesting process for me to do that.
It's exciting stuff.
Oh, it's so exciting. The whole, just watching the whole thing unfold, and being a part of it's been pretty exciting.
We're moving into construction now as well, so it's well advanced. Of course, we've got all our approvals. We've done the external works, and now we're into the site.
Yes, been and visited.
Got a lot of I think quite a handful of sales as well under our belt.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. But anyway, let's go back to our property development.
So
let's run through
which
those.
Property developments make the most money?
Well, let's go backwards then. So we've started with the most money is retirement, looking at around 70%. Yeah.
Well,
bringing it back up. Yeah. Is the NDIS and
that's
commercial,
somewhere in there. Yeah,
24.
Pretty well everything else is like in the 20s or less.
Yeah.
But you're right. Commercial, sort of mid-20s, let's say. Apartment blocks, mid to high 20s. But, probably not a lot of our listeners are doing apartment blocks.
No.
So the normal bread and butter stuff that I think most of the people would be interested in who watch your podcast would be...
I think we should just call it ours, but that's okay.
Probably, smaller townhouse and apartment developments, that 18-20% mark. Duplexes, which are very popular in that 15% mark, and even and two-lot subbies and houses, similar, 15. Little subbies by themselves, hard to find a good profitable one, but if you're getting 10% and you can move pretty quickly, that's okay. Because the 10% could be still, $200,000 profit.
Yep.
Depending on where it is. We're not, 10% sounds like a small number, but in property development, something that, even a two-lot subdivision. Even if the lots are only $500,000 each and you do two of them, that's $1 million. It might be costing you 9 to 10%. Yeah, you probably, you're making at least $100,000. It's almost impossible to do anything in property development, however small and simple, and make less than $100,000. And the thing is, somebody told me the other day, I think it's only like 5% of the population earn more than $100,000 a year or something.
Really?
I don't know. It sounds weird. Maybe it's more.
I think what happens when we live in this world, we only talk in big numbers, like we talk in hundreds of thousands. I'm not saying whatever you earn, what you earn, but our world is only speaking about big numbers all the time. Someone's fees come in, they're buying something for 2.3 or they're buying something for 800. And that just becomes your world. So you suppose you just kind of think, oh gosh, I suppose it's a different number.
But if you did a splitter and made 100,000,
I'd be stoked.
Well, it's a pretty low margin deal, to be honest.
I know,
but if you were prepared to do a low margin deal and do a splitter and make 100, which I don't know what that is, pretty low. The point is, like the amount of hours in it, probably 20.
Yeah, see, it's not a bad hourly rate.
Once you've found the deal, it's really all over to a surveyor and a lawyer. I'd be surprised if there's 20 hours working it for a developer.
There you go.
But if you can do 20 hours, make 100 grand, it's 5,000 an hour.
Crikey, there you go. It's more than
You'll spend more than the 20 hours probably finding one that stacks up. That's another story.
Yeah, that's that needle in a haystack.
I did say once you've found one that stacks up.
Yeah, there you go, Kim. We were chatting about that this morning. Hope you're listening to this one this week. Well, everybody, I think we've chatted away quite a lot there about return on costs, which property developments make the most money. I hope you've got a lot out of it. You've realised it's about speed, it's return on IRR, LOC, all of that stuff. A few more acronyms.
LVRs,
to
throwing a few more.
No, we didn't talk about LVRs
We didn't.
today. No. But anyway, just a reminder, our masterclass, 1st of October, the Brisbane event, 8th of October, Sydney 15th, and Melbourne 22nd. They are just 2 to 5 events. And then you need to be lining up and signing up for the 3-day property event of the year.
Extravaganza, party time on the Gold Coast.
It'll be fabulous, and we'll be having a few surprises this year, so looking out for 4, 5,
That's
6.
the event everyone's got to attend.
Yeah, it'll be
3 days on the Gold Coast, dead set.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
And it's going to be fun.
All right, people, that's the end of episode 61. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will catch you next week. Bye.
Bye now.